What's up, everybody? This is Justin Coffin, 330 Sports Show. Greg Kirchner joining me. We're trying this live tonight. I'm not sharing it out. I'm not doing anything, but we're trying it live. If you do want, we will have the comments open. I believe this is live on Facebook, YouTube, and X. So later tomorrow, it'll be available on whatever podcast platforms you choose. It looks like we might be having a little bit of trouble with anybody on Facebook, so that might hurt some of the views here. But anyway, this is going to be a weekly show we're going to try to stay consistent on. But Greg and I are going to record most likely Monday nights for Tuesday, but it might be Tuesday into Wednesday. We'll just depending on our schedule. But anyway, Greg, this is going to be Cleveland Browns, NFL, and whatever else BS we want to talk at the end. So,
wish I had something stronger than sparkling water for this conversation. But
anytime it's the Cleveland Browns, you're going to be in for something interesting. Usually not good, but something interesting. So, all right. Well, let's just start with it. Let's get into the game here versus the Cincinnati Bengals, Battle of Ohio. We all know the score, but let's give me your overall thoughts on what you witnessed on Sunday afternoon.
It's like, on one hand, there's a lot of positives that we'll be able to talk about that came out of that game. But, I think I probably speak for all Browns fans when I say, I'm sick and tired of talking about all the positives that happen in a game that we lost, right? Or
right.
The things that look forward to or whatever. At the end of the day, golden opportunity to go 1-0, should have gone 1-0. And, ultimately couldn't execute a couple kicks. And it's always seems to be something. It's always something. It's been the kickers a lot over the years. It's also just been a lot of other crazy things. You go back to Dwayne Rudd in the opener, but you name it. I feel like we've been through the whole gamut. So we should be 1-0, but we know what Bill Parcells says. Your record is what you are. We're 0-1, and we're staring down the barrel of 3 extremely tough games, including one next week against another team that lost, a terrible game for them to lose. And it's just, for all the positives, it's the fact that, there's probably a better than 50-50 shot we're going to be 0-4 in 3 weeks. And that's hard to swallow for as hard and as well as we played, and how we just seem to have Cincinnati's number, and we're able to put that offense to, a lot of people talked about them being one of the better maybe one of the best offenses in recent history this year, and putting them completely in a blender, shutting down Burrow, shutting down Chase, and walking away with a loss is just sickening. I mean, you were there, so
yeah.
What are your thoughts?
I mean, honestly, I thought it was a pretty positive vibe throughout the stadium for the most of the game. I felt like the Browns felt like they were in complete control of that game, even though they were down 14-10 at the half. But you give up that opening drive, whatever, you're figuring things out. So are they. They didn't have any big plays. They kind of dinked and dunked their way down the field. A couple nice passes by Burrow. But really, outside of that first drive, it was really nothing impressive, or nothing that Cincinnati was doing that was seemed dominant, and I feel like going into this game, I think it was a 5.5 point spread. Most people thought it would be a close game. And one of my neighbors went to the game with me, and he's actually a Bengal fan. And I told him after that first touchdown, I'm like, the Bengals might lead towards the end, Browns might lead towards the end, but we all know it's coming down to the last 3 minutes of the game. And lo and behold, that's exactly what happened. With it being the Bengals and the track record that the Browns have against them, and the Bengals' slow starts at the beginning of the year, I did legitimately think I picked us to lose, but I thought we would have a good showing, which we did. Little did I know, an extra point and a 37-yard field goal, something like that.
36, 37, yeah.
Yeah, would like come back to haunt us by a kicker that I now realize has no actual vowels in his last name. So I thought, that guy was good in college. He was great in the preseason. I think he won. Wasn't he like the college kicker of the year?
Yeah, he won the Groza Award. Yep.
Yeah. So, I mean, this is a guy that has dealt with pressure, that's made some big kicks. And I know it was only preseason, but that preseason kick against the Rams to like win the game, that was a much further kick. And you could argue just as much pressure, because if he misses that, they don't cut Dustin Hopkins, they keep him. And then, so, I mean, overall, like, it kind of, normally at a Browns game, I felt like the weather was perfect. There was good vibes, like I said, throughout the stadium.
The crowd seemed really loud.
Yeah, it was great.
And most of the game, especially in the second half.
And the defense, we'll get into some of the stats and numbers here in a little bit, but I mean, the defense was completely dominant, especially after that first drive. 4 or 5 sacks, 3 consecutive sacks on one series, like right by the goal line. And it's like, you can't ask much more from this defense. And really, Flacco played all right. A lot of the rookies, Fannin played good. I like the running back from Tennessee. I thought he did pretty well. I think even Isaiah Bond made a catch early on in that game. And so there are some decent things to take away from this game, but you're still walking away with an L at the end of the day. So is what it is.
Yeah, the defense looked a lot. I mean, it really reminded you of 2 years ago. I mean, that dominant on all levels, and
just couldn't get it done.
Again, you're taking some of the most elite offensive players at their position in the league and effectively just putting them in a blender for 60 minutes.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know what it is. I mean, Denzel Ward is obviously one of the best cover corners in the league, but it's like, wide receivers and corners, are generally the most confident, I'll say, guys on the field. But even when you have like Jamar Chase saying, man, like Denzel Ward I have the most trouble with Denzel Ward. It's almost like there's just something about when the Bengals step out on the field against this team. And I just wish like some of the other 31 teams in the league would feel the same way stepping on the field against the Browns. I don't know what it is, but we have their number. They got to be walking away from this feeling, I guess if you're a Bengals fan, maybe you're a little uneasy. I'd be interested in what your Bengals fan friend had to say, because I mean, it's like the inverse of what we feel. We feel like we played great and we just feel gutted that we lost. But when you play bad and you get a win, it's like, hey, we're 1-0. We played terrible. We basically, every team in the league's probably gonna have a few stinkers during the year. Yeah. And I feel like the Bengals kind of had theirs and they won. Yeah. So they probably got to be feeling pretty good about themselves. Yeah, they'd be a little uneasy about that they didn't rectify some of their defensive issues. They didn't rectify some of their O-line issues, and I guess that's what happens when you have the money that they have tied up in basically 3 players with Burrow, Chase, and Higgins.
Yeah, and they just paid
and Hendrickson. Yeah,
and Hendrickson. Yeah,
yeah, 4 guys. Yeah. So,
but yeah, I would say to what Bengals fans think is, I think they think they stole one.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's legitly they're used to being 0-1 or 0-2 or at best 1-1 to start the year the last few years, and Zach Taylor's got a terrible record. Joe Burrow's record wasn't very good coming into week 1 and 2, but they got it done. Like I don't know if they necessarily won it or we more lost that game, and it's like we'll talk about Baltimore Buffalo a little bit later, but good teams find a way to win, bad teams find a way to lose, and that's I think legitimately what happened on Sunday.
And there is no organization probably in professional sports that finds more ways to lose than the Cleveland Browns, unfortunately.
Unfortunately, that is true, which brings us to the next segment. mistakes on the lake. What went right? What went wrong? So let's start with what went wrong, and then we can maybe end on a little positive there. So we obviously know the kicking situation. So if you're Kevin Stefanski, if you're Andrew Berry, what do you do about the kicking situation after week 1?
I mean, I saw the 49ers just cut Jake Moody. So, my initial thought is like, you got to maybe give him one more shot. But it's such a mental thing. That's one hand. The other hand is, there's only 32 NFL starting kickers, and there are more than 32 guys out there that can make field goals consistently. And all these teams seem to find a kicker. Like the Ravens rookie, they get the rookie, they get a rookie, makes a 52-yarder the other night. And Chris Boswell hasn't missed a kick since the bicentennial. And just there's all these kickers that kind of in the Bates, the kicker from Detroit, also like came from UFL, and it's just, so there's guys out there. So I guess I'm talking out of both sides of my mouth. I think they're going to keep him another week. But it just, you kind of see where this is going to go. He would have to really, because it gets in your head.
George Mallory says we should sign Justin Tucker.
I mean, we
might as well.
It wouldn't be the worst signing that we've made in the past few years. I mean,
a hell of a lot cheaper than Watson.
Why not? Yeah.
Why not?
No, it's just tough. And I know we're talking and we know this. It's never one person's fault. This one felt really like, clearly it's, you're putting a lot of the blame on the kicker, but we had drop passes. We had drop passes or balls that, not only those, like that 3rd and 4th down where we had 2 drop balls. Mm-hmm. I believe also both interceptions were balls that could have been caught.
Yeah.
That led,
and I believe there was 2 other drop passes too that were on 3rd and 4th down too that would have converted a first down. I think one was by Fannin and one was either by Tillman or Judy. I can't remember.
Yeah, I think Judy had the 4th down drop, and Judy also had a drop early in the game. So yeah, you get the you sit there and you watch the film and you realize that there were a lot of things that could, everybody, we always talk about that. Again, you've coached sports. It's never one person. It's never one call. People love to blame the refs, right? And say the refs cost us the game, or the kicker cost us the game, or whatever. But it's always more than that. But in this case, it was a lot of the kicker.
Yeah, it really was. So we've obviously talked about some of the mistakes. We do want to shine a little bit of positivity on what we saw. What was the best thing you saw, this weekend out of the Browns?
Best thing, I think it's pretty easy to say like the overall defensive play. I think all 3 levels though was really you look at, I have the stats up here because I know we were going to talk about like defensive player of the game and things like that. And, when you look at what Garrett did, now a lot of that was in like one sequence, but, Garrett, showed how he dominates the game. He had 4 tackles for losses, 5 tackles, 4 for loss, 2 sacks, 3 quarterback hits. But Carson Swessinger, rookie out of UCLA, led the team in tackles. He had a great game at the linebacker position. Devin Bush was right up there. And then, we talked about what Denzel Ward holding Chase to 2 catches, 26 yards. I know he wasn't exclusively on him, but he was on him a lot. And, that's success at all 3 levels. Delpit, I know, had a good game. Hickman had a good game. I mean, the defense altogether was good, and Mason Graham, I think, was pretty decent too, as well. So I think the positives on defense. So maybe I'm going to change my tune here. I'm going to say that the play by the rookies was the
Okay.
biggest positive thing. Because as I'm looking at this, you had Schlesinger and Graham on defense, both
Yep.
having good games. And then you had Sampson being really the lead running back. Now, he didn't get it going running the ball, but he did have 8 catches for 64 yards
Right.
and, showed a lot of potential. And then I feel like, Harold Fannin had 7 for 63, could have had more, but he was everywhere. He even took a Wildcat snap. So he seemed like he was Flacco's favorite target. And
Yep.
he might just be one of those guys that, just one of those guys that just knows how to get open. So I think encouraging play by the rookies, I guess, after
For
all
sure.
that, it was a positive.
For sure. And I think, I was at the game. So sometimes when you're at the game, you actually miss more. You know what I mean? You're distracted. You're looking at other things sometimes. But from what it appeared, it almost looked, and I didn't look at snap counts, it almost looked like Fannin was in the game more than Njoku. A lot, so I'd be interested to check out those snap counts and see who is different. But yeah, a great showing outside of kicking for the rookies, for sure. So let's go on to let's talk about this though, and let's go. Who's our big dog of the week? Who's our offensive player of the game? So we'll make a rule here. Whoever, so if you go first, I can't pick. I can't pick that same guy. So we got to pick 2 different people. So
you want to lead this. You can lead this one off.
Okay. All right. Well, so offensive player of the week. You already mentioned him, but I'm going to go with Harold Fannin Jr. I really thought outside of one drop, he played really, really well. He even took like a wildcat snap and had a 3-yard run that made it a easier 3rd down, I believe. So pretty impressive. And that kid's from Canton, Ohio, played at Canton McKinley High School, played at Bowling Green. So he's Ohio through and through. Same uniform color and everything from college to pro. But yeah, I think you're gonna see the Browns in a lot of 12 personnel this year.
Yeah,
and just another observation, because I was lucky enough to have sideline passes this week, so I was able to be kind of right there on the field. And David Njoku came right over to us. He is a large human being, and I say this with all due respect. He's round, but it's all muscle. How some people have that chiseled look. He's obviously a ripped dude, but this guy is round, but he's it's all muscle. It's hard to explain, but the dude would be an intimidating guy to tackle.
Yeah, absolutely.
So
and he had a few plays where he can move the pile 4 or 5 yards, and he does it a lot.
For sure. So one vote for Harold Fannin. Greg, who you going with?
Yeah, I was gonna do Sampson, but I'm gonna give Flacco a little love because he really did have a good game.
Yeah.
31 for 45, 290 yards, 1 touchdown, 2 interceptions, but like we said, neither of them really were his fault. And we moved the ball. I know Cincinnati's defense is not a vaunted defense, but we moved the ball. Flacco gave us a chance to win, and it kind of proved what we had talked about, that as long as he's at the helm, if he can stay healthy and, we don't decide to go in the rookie direction, we're going to be a competent offense.
Mm-hmm.
And that's pretty impressive for a 40-year-old.
Absolutely. Do you think, this is totally random, because I know the Browns are building for the future. Haslam even, put a quote out there of basically said we're resetting the timeline a little bit, which might be good for Stefanski and Barry. It's going to buy him some more time. But that was kind of an admission of hey, we swung and missed on Watson. So our quarterback position isn't set. So you can't fully judge the team when they don't have a franchise quarterback. So, but long story short with this question, Joe Flacco, he's 40, I believe. So is there any chance with the two rookies behind him that, maybe he's around for one more year, or this is like another one and done situation?
That's a good question. I kind of view it as a one and done, and I view it as he probably would just retire. But
Yeah.
Does he hang around? Maybe, if depending on the situation next year, to mentor a rookie starter, or kind of step in early again. Yeah, I kind of think I would lean towards this is it for him.
Yeah.
And I would also lean towards that probably by the time, through probably no fault of his own, and hopefully he stays healthy. But, if the season goes kind of the way that it looks like it could, I mean, at some point you're going to have to see what you have with these other two guys. So
For sure.
Does Flacco make it past week 7 or week 8 as the starter? Probably not, unless we can, still be in contention at that point, or if he just lights it up.
Right.
But it's a tall order.
And really, as Browns fans, like, obviously this is one of those weird topics to talk about, because you don't want to lose any game, but part of that, thought in the back of your head is like, there's no draft lottery or anything like that. It's the worst team gets the top pick, and the Browns are going to have 2 first rounders next year. It's like, is there part of you that's like, well, we're competitive, but we lost, and maybe that's not the worst thing for 2026 and beyond, too.
Yeah, no doubt.
I mean, that's maybe a long-term way of thinking of it, or a loser's mentality, but we all know this team and what it is in and of itself is not going to the playoffs. So it's like, yeah, you want to be entertained, you want to be competitive, but at the end of the day, is this loss the worst thing? Probably not. So, because there's a huge difference between if you're 6-11 versus 4-13. You might be picking, if you're 4-13, you might be picking 1, 2, 3, 4. Whereas if you're 6-11, you might be down as far as 11 or 12. So it is what it is. But just curious on that. All right.
Yeah, and it's like, just a quick point, and it's like it's just the way the Browns can do it to us, right? Because it is like going into that game, if you were like, hey, if we're competitive and cover the spread and play well and lose, would you be that upset? No. And then that happens, and then you're like, somehow they still manage to do it to me. Like, they do it to all of us, right? Just the way we hold them to 7 yards in the second half, we lose the game. And fashion that we did. And somehow you're like sitting there miserable, brokenhearted when you were going into the game saying, yeah, we'll probably lose and it's fine. Yeah. So I guess it's a small consolation, but we always cling to the hope, and especially when you can play defense. And that was the thing, I was starting to think about, we're realistic, but you think, man, this defense looks really good. We can be a competitive team. 1-0 would be nice, and who the hell knows?
Right.
The NFL is crazy. You get an injury, somebody goes down on the Ravens on Sunday night. Next thing you know, we could be 2-0.
Sure.
And now it's completely flipped. So yeah, there is like that. There's that game one, like, hey, maybe we can get something going here that, everybody has that little glimmer of hope, and we all can dream. And, but here we are 0-1.
Here we go again.
Facing a tough situation this week.
So. Here we go again. But, it's, I guess it's week to week, and that's why we're very loyal fans. Hardest team to root for maybe in pro sports. All right, let's move on to the defensive side of the ball. We've praised the defense a ton, but I'll let you go first on this one. Defensive player of the game.
Yeah, I'm going to go Denzel Ward, because he shut down possibly the best player in the NFL.
Yeah. Yeah, if you're in fantasy leagues, I would bet Jamar Chase went number 1 in most of the leagues. Triple Crown winner last year. And he's just a stud. And I think 2 for 26?
2 for 26.
Unbelievable. Great stuff. And Greg Newsome, give him credit too. He was matched up on, if you're not matched up on Chase, you're on Higgins. And and he's normally like our slot corner, but with injury to Emerson, he had to bump outside. So good for him. And he's in contract year too. So he could be trade bait later in the year, or, he's, a possible extension guy. We'll see what the Browns decide to do with him. All right.
Yeah, it's absolutely crazy when you see T. Higgins, 3 catches, 33 yards as their leading receiver.
Yeah. Yeah. And I don't know.
That Yoshavash, who's a good number 3 receiver, didn't even get targeted. So,
honestly, I don't know. I don't remember either of them having a catch in the second half.
Yeah, if it was, Chase had 1 for 20 and 1 for 6. So I can't even tell you. I think I remember one of them, but yeah, probably not in the second half given their yardage. So
yeah. Well, that's a perfect segue, because let's go right into stat of the week. So for the Browns Bengals, I mean, I'm going to just give it to you, because you got it. We talked about it before we came on air.
Yeah, so the Browns held the Bengals to 7 yards in the second half, which is the lowest total yards in the second half for a team who won a game in 25 years. So add that to the wall of shame for just crazy Brown stats. But yeah, couldn't do anything more. And the series where we sacked Burrow 3 times was amazing, and that's when I really noticed that the crowd was just absolutely beside themselves. That was special. You do not see that very often at any level, especially at the NFL level.
Yeah, and if that last one was about a yard further back, maybe we're celebrating an 18-17 win, because it was about 4 feet away from being a safety. But Miles got the 2. I think Isaiah McGuire got the other one. But we're Buckeye fans, but you got to give Mason Graham a lot of love. He played well. A lot of stuff he does. A lot of stuff the defensive tackles don't show up in the stat column. But a lot, when they force Burrow up in the pocket and let the edges do what they do, good stuff happens. And the corners we talked about, like, just everybody did their job. So unbelievable stats. 7 total net yards in the second half for the Cincinnati Bengals. And like Greg said, that a team hasn't won since 1991 or something. It's been a long time. It's like since over 25 years, I believe. But to, I guess piggyback off of that stat, the Browns had 327 total yards. The Bengals had 141. So you're outgaining them by a ton. And, it is what it is. Unfortunately, stats are a great thing. Numbers are a great thing. But the most important number is you fell 1 point short. And that's, leads you to 0-1. So, all right, we'll move on from that. And let's review some of our last week's picks. So week 1, our picks here. Greg with a little bit of a struggle last week, 7-9 on the week.
It's crazy, straight up. Yeah.
Well, I mean, week 1 is it is what it is. Week 1's a tough one. I also like the unders. This would have been a good stat of the week. I believe the unders were 13-3 in the NFL week 1. And I bet 3 games totals, and I happened to bet the under in the Eagles-Chiefs game that went over by a 0.5 point, and I happened to bet the under in last night's Chicago game, and of course that one lost too. So you win some, you lose some. If you're betting, you probably lose more than you win. But what just give me a few thoughts on around the league from this.
Yeah, I mean, when I look at 7-9, obviously I'm not proud of that. But when I look and I'm like, Ravens, it's how crazy the NFL is, right? There were some, so the Browns were not alone this week in just teams that played well enough to win and didn't. The Ravens, probably arguably, you could say, that was my biggest takeaway from the week and watching that game is for 55 minutes of football. I was like, the Ravens are, and I think I still believe they probably are the best team in the NFL.
I agree.
But they looked absolutely unstoppable. they were unstoppable. I have no idea how they lost that game. Josh Allen is equally magnificent, but Lamar Jackson and Derrick Henry, and when that offense is clicking, I mean, they can't be stopped, really.
Yeah.
They stopped themselves with a fumble. But you look at that, and that is that loss probably of all the games, because we talked about that game being a potential battle for seeding. I think it's pretty. The Ravens, we've seen this movie before. They'll be fine. They'll barring some kind of crazy injury.
They'll be fine in the regular season.
They'll be fine in the regular season.
Yeah.
But that game could end up they could be in Buffalo in January playing a playoff game. They could have been in Baltimore because of that game. So there's serious downstream implications to that game. Staying in the AFC North, just if you'd have told me the Steelers. Oh, sorry.
No, go for it.
The Steelers are going to give up 32 points to Justin Fields and the Jets and still win the game. I would have said you were crazy. And also, that was the highest total of the day until the Ravens-Bills game, which is equally crazy. But go figure, of course. Aaron Rodgers, goes to Pittsburgh, drinks from the fountain of the Mike Tomlin fountain of youth, and throws for 4 touchdown passes and looks like old Aaron Rodgers. And same old story. I mean, I'm not going to sit here and bellyache. It's like, I hate the Steelers, but you have to respect what they're always able to do. They find ways to win.
Yep. Browns
find ways to lose. And you look at those. You look at the 1-0 under them and the 0-1 under us, and that's kind of the story of the two franchises. And Chris Boswell drilling a 60-yard field goal, but that game was shocking as well. So those are really the two games that really stuck out. But
yeah. I mean, honestly, like you said, good teams find a way to win. Mike Tomlin and the Steelers don't have a playoff win in a long time, but they are competitive, or they're at least in the wild card hunt every single year. And it's because and you could argue they have the best kicker in the NFL right now, Boswell. He is, to make a 60-yarder is just unbelievable with the game on the line. And just great game by Justin Fields, great game by Aaron Rodgers, but it is what it is. And like you said, a win's a win, a loss is a loss, and that's the way you gotta, deal with it.
And it feels like it was a million years ago with everything that happened on Sunday and Monday, but also like that it was a huge win by the Chargers on Friday.
Yes,
with the Chiefs.
Yeah.
And another game that could, swing that division. I think we both picked the Chiefs to win the division. Xavier Worthy goes down third play of the game. All of a sudden, the Chiefs look, they don't look as scary as they once did. Now, I think we know that they are the Chiefs, and just when you count them out, they they prove you wrong. But the Chargers look like they're for real, and the Broncos didn't look the greatest. Raiders got a nice win, so we knew the AFC West was going to be good, and it is going to be good right now. The Chiefs are looking up at 3 teams, which is a place they haven't been in a while, and they got the Super Bowl champs coming to Arrowhead this week, so a real chance to go 0-2 and put the Chiefs behind the 8 ball a bit.
No doubt. Yeah, that might be the game of the week right there. Last year's Super Bowl matchup. We're gonna talk about like the whole NFL Week 2 slate here. We're just gonna pick our games, give quick thoughts in a minute. But before we do that, let's obviously start with the Browns and Ravens. Both teams 0-1. I posted this line this morning. I believe it's up to 12.5 now. I'd have to double check that, but either way, Ravens about 11.5 or 12.5 point favorites, depending on what book you're looking at, about a 45.5 total. So the Ravens also have decided to celebrate their 30th anniversary as a franchise when the Cleveland Browns come to town, which is a big FU to Cleveland, our fans, and the Browns organization as a whole. So any thoughts on that before we share our thoughts and pick this game.
Yeah, it's like getting invited to like a cookout at your ex-wife's house or something. I don't know. Like, I mean, it is the home opener, but yeah, it just goes to figure. It's just like, I can already see Ray Lewis dancing out there and just, all the typical Raven shit that we see. But just a further reminder that they've really been nothing but successful.
Mm-hmm.
Well, considering their first 2 draft picks post move for Jonathan Ogden and Ray Lewis, so 2 Hall of Famers right out of the chute, and really didn't stop from there. So, yeah, it is a little bit of a pie in the face, but
Yeah, but it is what it is. And I will say, they didn't open up at home week 1. They probably would have done it week 1.
yeah.
But the Browns just happened to be their opponent. But the Ravens also happen to be assholes. So
and also like just one of the many things that like I think makes us feel old is the fact that the Ravens have been around 30 years. It's kind of crazy thought. So
wild. I will say, here's a random question for you. Do you have a player from a team you hate, whether that's the Steelers, the Ravens, the Michigan Wolverines, that you actually kind of really liked as a player? I have one that I'm thinking of.
I know exactly who you're thinking of, and I totally agree with what you're saying. Why don't you? I'm going to think about it, because your guy was the first guy that came to mind. But you got.
You could piggyback on him, but it's definitely Ed Reed. It's definitely like, to me, that's a guy that is like one of the best football players I've ever seen in my life. Ed Reed, safety. He was so cocky at Miami, but he could be because he was so good. I believe he was the first ballot Hall of Famer, but that guy was a ball hawk. He could hit hard, and that guy just knew football inside and out. So, so I have all the respect for Ed Reed, not the Ravens, but Ed Reed. That's probably my favorite Baltimore player, as much as I hate to say that, but or maybe most respected player that I can think of.
I totally agree. I actually feel that way about Derrick Henry too. Like maybe he hasn't been a Raven his whole career, obviously, so it's a little bit different, but I love watching that guy run the football. I think he's incredible.
Yeah.
And I really don't have any ill will towards him when I watch him play.
Well, neither of us picked Flacco.
Yeah, that's true. And if Flacco's one of us now, it almost feels like he's been a Brown for life. But yeah, it's weird. Like I hate those Ray Lewis Ravens teams. Obviously, they were nasty, scary, like tough. Hated them. Ed Reed was amazing, but I don't know. I still hate the jersey, but I don't like these Ravens teams. I don't know about you, but I don't like have the same angst for like Lamar Jackson or any of these guys. Like they're amazing to watch play. I mean, Lamar is just incredible.
People all ask me like, you probably hate them more than the Steelers because they took your franchise and left. Like no, like my hatred rang more for Art Modell and that whole situation. But like the Steelers will always be the Michigan, to my Ohio State. So it's like that's just how it will always be until the Broncos are a close third behind those. So Steelers, Ravens, Broncos, top 3 most hated teams. 4th would be like, I don't know. I'd have to think about 4. So, all right, let's go ahead and pick this game. So, Greg, I'm going to let you lead off. Ravens obviously are going to have your attention this week. They cannot go 0-2. Browns coming off a really good performance, but drop a heartbreaker to Cincinnati. Both teams 0-1. AFC North matchup. These games generally are sometimes a lot closer than the odds may say. But what say you on this game?
Yeah, obviously a tough situation. We'll see what the Browns are made of. I don't I hope maybe wishful thinking. I don't expect us to just get like our doors blown off. I mean, I
Yeah.
think this team's got a lot of pride. They play well on defense. I think we'll make some plays. We'll move the ball a little bit. I know we don't have Josh Allen at quarterback, but the Ravens did give up 41 points.
Yeah.
So ultimately, I just see it as a game where maybe we hang in there for a while. Ravens pull away in the second half, then Ravens win the game, and I would say that the Ravens will probably cover in the fourth quarter. And also, like, kind of a scary thing is, like, they blew a 15-point lead with 4.5 minutes to go or whatever it was on Sunday. They're not going to let the foot off the gas this week if they do get going. So it could get ugly late just because they are not gonna stop. I mean, I think we'll, we got a comment about how many yards is Henry gonna go for, but I think we'll do a decent job on Henry, but I think it's going to be Lamar and some of the receivers. But just Lamar's ability to make plays with his legs, make plays with his arm. It seems like he levels up every year. And even on like the Sunday night version, I know they lost the game. The Sunday night version of Lamar was probably the best version I'd ever seen of him. They talked about now he's getting like multiple plays in the huddle and he's calling the plays at the line. And he just, I don't know. I don't know where you put him all time as far as like quarterbacks that, can do, Michael Vick, Randall Cunningham, those kind of guys. But I feel like he's the best I've ever seen at being able to do it with his legs. And now the throwing has just come around full circle. He threw 4 interceptions last year. Yeah. He is just spectacular. And I think he will have a monster game. And Ravens win.
Okay. Yeah, I'm going to go with 34-17 Baltimore. I think the Ravens probably get an early lead, probably build on that. The Browns maybe like chip away a little bit, but I think the Ravens do win and cover. And I have been actually picking a lot of the unders, but I'm going to go over in this game. 34-17 is what, 51 points. So that's over the 45.5 as of this morning. That may change one way or the other, but that is a look at that at this game this week. But let's go over our picks for this week, and I'm just going to kind of read them off real quick for anyone that might listen on podcast as well, but we're going to put them up here on the screen. So Greg and I are both on, and Greg, if I mistake any of these, just call them out for me. But Greg and I are both on Green Bay over Washington, Baltimore over Cleveland, Cincy over Jacksonville, Dallas over the Giants, and the Lions over the Bears, 49ers over the Saints, Bills over the Jets, Cardinals over Carolina, Houston over Tampa, and the Raiders over the Chargers. So those are the games we're both on. We're split. I like New England over Miami. Greg likes, or I like Pittsburgh at home over Seattle. I think whoever was home, I was going to pick in that game. I like the Rams. Greg's going with a big upset. I haven't looked at that line, but the Titans. We'll talk about that in a minute. I like I like Denver. Greg is on Indy. That's an interesting one. We're on different sides of the Super Bowl matchup. I like Kansas City. Greg is on Philly. And I believe it's a Sunday night game, I like Atlanta. And Greg is on Minnesota with big comeback from J.J. McCarthy last night. So what stands out this week in some of these games?
I mean, these were hard to pick. We talked about it last week that, like, I sometimes think as shitty as I did in week one, like I said, I didn't feel as bad because there were probably 4 games that could have gone either way.
Yeah.
Week 2, I think, is actually harder to pick than week 1. And you called it last week. It's like, who are the fraudulent teams that teased us in week 1 that aren't for real versus who are those teams that just didn't have a good start to the season but are really good. So I probably did. I probably did what I said I shouldn't have done, is kind of
overcorrected.
Overcorrected. Yes. But I don't know. It's a tough week. Like all these games that when you went through all those games that we picked differently on, I mean, they're all like, I guess with the exception, I think the Rams are like 5.5 point favorites at Tennessee. I just kind of like Tennessee played well against Denver. I think they
Yeah.
might have one of the most inept coaches in the league, but Cam Ward might be pretty good. But all these games are pretty close point spreads. I think they're all like 3 or under, except for that one. So it's a it's a big kind of like shrug your shoulders. It's almost like you got to sit back another week and see who's for real, who isn't for real, who just had a bad week one, and so on.
Yeah, I've heard professional gamblers who have done like certain podcasts and stuff say Vegas is still trying to figure things out until about week 4. So usually by week 4 they have a lot of comfort in their lines, but a lot of times in these weeks you're going to see real close point spreads. Depending on what the matchup might be, unless it's an obvious over match. So should be interesting. If you had to pick one game of the week, what would be the game of the week for you?
I mean, we kind of the Super Bowl rematch. I think is the maybe the best game as far as like two teams that are pretty fully loaded and looked good is maybe the Thursday night game, but Thursday night games usually suck. So I don't know what to expect out of that, but those are two really good teams. We didn't talk about the Packers, but the Packers they may have looked better than anybody else in the league, and you had them in the Super Bowl and they made Detroit look like nothing. So, and I like that Vegas Chargers game, but it's like 10 o'clock on Monday night. So I don't know if I like it that much to stay up and watch it, but I do think, I mean, we talked about it a little bit. I don't know if we talked about it on the show or through text, but I really like Pete Carroll. He is a winner. He's been a winner everywhere he's gone. Raiders looked pretty good week 1. I don't know what Brock Bowers' status is, but also the Chargers, we talked about that, looked phenomenal week 1.
Yeah.
So that's one of those teams goes 2-0. Chiefs could go 0-2. So, that's a big game in the AFC West and a really tough division.
No doubt. So let's close this this part of our show out and just like final 2 minutes or so on final things in anything sports, pop culture, NFL, whatever it might be. Any final thoughts you got?
Yeah, I thought overall it was a hell of a week 1. I think it's the NFL is the most popular sport in the world. It's compelling entertainment. It's a blast. It's enjoyable. It's a roller coaster ride. If you're gambling on games, it's a lot of ups and downs. But it's if week 1 is any indication, it should be a hell of a season.
Yeah. Couple quick observations. I was at the Browns game, and the Browns were on defense. The Bengals were driving. I believe it was 14-10. Or the Bengals ended up kicking a field goal, but we saw a penalty flag on the field, and we're like, it wasn't holding. Like, what are they doing? And we're like, that's a neon flag. And we looked down a little closer, and we had our first lime green neon dildo on the field. So I guess the carryover from the WNBA to the NFL. So the poor guy that had to go over and like just pick it up and throw it off the field. But so that was an observation. And what I just want this your thoughts. Did you see Lamar and that Bills fan kind of get into it a little bit? Like what's your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, like we were the Malice in the Palace was probably one of the worst things that we've seen in sports in a long time. That being said, if a fan reaches out onto the playing field, and makes more than like a little contact with a guy, and he pretty much pushed Lamar pretty hard after he hit DeAndre Hopkins. I personally think they should just bring the guy out on the field and give Lamar 2 minutes with him. But I have absolutely no problem with what Lamar Jackson did. I mean, heat of the moment, but it's like, we know fans are idiots sometimes, and you have this perceived, when you're in the stands and he's got, I mean, is this guy going up to Lamar Jackson in the middle of the street and pushing him? Right. But there's this perceived, like, you can't touch me. I had no problem with it, and I'm kind of glad that it didn't. I'm sure Lamar will get fined for it, but I'm glad it didn't boil over and become like a big deal in the media, because I feel like, a player going into the stands to go after a fan who says something to them, or even maybe throws like a water bottle or something at them, that's a no-no. But when you come into the player's domain, to me, it's fair game, and those lines need to be respected.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I agree 100%. I think it's one of those things too. It's like, too many people are comfortable with like saying whatever they want online, being an online bully, tweeting whatever you want, saying whatever you want on Facebook. You can hide behind that computer, and some of that might carry over a little bit to the stands, I think. And it's like, better be careful, or you're going to get knocked out, and you fully deserve it, so
one of the best like all-time sports clips, and this is back in the 90s or early 2000s or something. It was hockey. I don't know if there's a guy named Ty Domi, and he has a son.
I remember that name.
Yeah, where he goes into he was like an enforcer, so he was just one of those guys, no front teeth or whatever. He goes into the penalty box. Some idiot fan is like jumping up onto the glass on the penalty box, yelling at him. And the next thing you know, the glass caves in, and this dude is in the penalty box with Ty Domi, and Domi just starts wailing on him. And it's just like, you know what? I mean, you crossed the line. You came onto the field of play or the bench, and we like to say "fuck around and find out," right? Yep. I mean it's.
Yeah. Get off the tracks while the train is coming through.
Yeah.
All right, final, because I don't think we're going to get to this in our second show. Final thoughts. This is non-NFL or non-football related, but the Philadelphia Phillies fan that went over and stole basically was like, hey, the Karen.
Yeah.
So first, I'll just give my opinion. You can rebut it or agree with it, but totally out of line. That ball wasn't hers. That ball's open for grabs. If that was, if she was maybe a little kid and she was right there and could almost reach it, you give the ball to a little kid, whatever. But that was just a dad going after a ball and then gave it to his son on his birthday. He didn't steal it from her. And then she comes up and she puts his hand. He overreacted a little bit. That was a little much, but that ball is his. And, things have been righted there, but I don't believe, I think she still has the ball. I think someone offered to give her $5,000 if she wrote, "I'm sorry," and gave the ball up. But thoughts on Philly's Karen.
So, yeah, I agree. She was completely out of line. I'll tell you what I don't like. And it's just this whole internet culture, right? It's like, don't ruin this lady's life though. It's like, she deserves to be shamed a bit, but does she deserve to have her life completely ruined and be bullied? And they're actually bullying people who weren't even, they found somebody that they thought was this lady, and it wasn't. And they started bullying her. But it's like, at some point, should she lose her job and lose everything in her life because of this? No, but it was a shitty thing. And, we got to be better. We as a society have to be better, and you have to be better. And you never know when you're going to be in the news, and you want to be in it for the right reasons and not the wrong reasons. But everybody's got a camera and everybody's watching all the time. So when you act like a jackass in public, that some of these things will happen.
Yep. Well said. I don't have anything else more to say to that. So we're going to close out here. The only thing I do want to say is make sure above, I'm like a weather person, I don't know which way to point, above my shoulder here, make sure to like, follow, subscribe to Youngstown Studio. Also below me right here at 330 Sports Show, Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter, or X. Just make sure to give a follow on there. Post obviously all the shows and the content, but we always post a bunch of other random stuff, our picks for the week, different things with betting we do. And overall, I think Greg and I are doing pretty well so far on the gambling front this year. But make sure to like, subscribe, follow. And if you are a podcast listener, pretty much any platform you're choosing, the show will be up on usually the next day. So for Greg, I'm Justin. We're going to do a 2 for Tuesday. So this show went out live. We're going to record another one here on Tuesday night that's going to air on Wednesday, an Ohio State Buckeye fan. So if you like the Browns, you like the Buckeyes, make sure to tune in. We'll talk a little YSU Penguins here and there. We'll talk a little, NCAA college football, stuff like that. So again, for Greg, I'm Justin. Everybody, appreciate you watching, and we'll talk to you soon.
Thank you for listening to this show on Youngstown Studio. This is original Youngstown content. Feel free to share our videos and tell your friends about us. Don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel and follow us on Facebook.